Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of okay, it's a hybrid episode. So it's gonna be doing this as Woodward Tiger slash Tiger Man Report because Thursday I kind of rushed through the show because I had some for softball. So there's some questions to be answered from that. And quite frankly, actually, the Tigers are on a winning streak. So there is that. There's a couple things, but kind of all works together because the minor leagues have had some several changes and they keep on changing that affect the Tigers. So this all works in harmony. So we're just gonna call this Woodward minor league report.
All right.
But before we get to all that, I wanted to thank. We had two reviews. I think it was all one day, Thursday and Friday, which doesn't really happen too often. One was a 5-star review, one was a 3-star review, and they both left really good commentary first and foremost. So yes, we are in terms of the drops and stuff like that. I'll do a better job of cleaning those up, and we'll stop mumbling. But it was some legitimate feedback. And anytime that you leave a comment and you want to continue to listen, and Jeremy was asking for the possible close up on the hat. That's the Ontiga or Onatoga.
Ponyonta.
Thank you. The old Tigers rookie affiliate from I want to say like mid 90s to the early 2000s before they went to Connecticut.
It was all the way up until like at least 2012, 2013, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I can take a look real quick.
Yeah, take a look at that there. But anyways, I like feedback like that. We always are. This is a very DUI show. And
wait.
What?
Did you say DUI?
Or do you?
It's a very DUI show. It's a very Marcelo Ozuna show over here.
Yeah, it's the Marcelo Ozuna show.
DIY.
DIY. Jeremy, don't apologize. By the way, YouTube, Jeremy, don't apologize, man. You're all good. But yeah, it is a very DIY show, and I've learned a lot from what I learned from Specs Hauer has been applied to editing and what have you. But this is the video side of things is still relatively new to us because we were audio format until last year, and then we decided to go video and change for the better. So we appreciate the point I'm trying to make is simply this: leave us a review, let us know what you think, and comments like that, like just some of the commentary we were getting about the drops and all that stuff, it goes a long way. So thank you.
And Oneonta was there. You're right. Till 2009.
Okay.
It felt more recent than that, but I guess I'm just conflating the fact they moved from Oneonta to Norwich and became the Connecticut Tigers, right? Then they were going to be what was going to be their new name? The Unicorns?
The Sea Unicorns, yeah.
Yeah, and then, whoops.
Yeah. Now they are a developmental team, I believe. Something to that effect.
Boy, I don't even know if they survived, and maybe they're part of the some of those wood-bat summer leagues or something.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's I think they're in a developmental league like that. I'm pretty sure. I think it was Jeff from Baseball America told us that they're still going in, but never. I'm glad they are. I mean, it was unfortunate what MLB did, but yeah, there's the other one I want to get really. There's now, as far as my fitted hat collection goes, there's the Jacksonville Suns, which the Tigers were AA affiliate for I think maybe a season or two tops before they went to Erie. And they were in that weird transition period when they, for a while, the AA affiliate was, well, for a while it was, I'm trying to think it here. Oh man, okay, so it was I remember growing up, it was the London Tigers, London, Ontario. Then they went to Jacksonville, and then I feel like there's somewhere stop in between that, and then they went to Erie. So it's been the AA affiliates. I think before that too. I think it was, I want to say Nashville. I'll look that up anyway. So yeah, there is a. I'm trying to collect all of them. There's the Denver Bears, which they were in the '60s. That was the Tigers AAA team. The Evansville. Trenton, thank you, Michael. Yeah, good call, Michael. I forgot about Trenton. Good call there. Yeah, Evansville, the Triplets, which that was their primary AAA team, and they were Nashville for a minute. So I do have a Nashville cap of the Nashville Sounds. That was in I think '86. That was the team that Matt Noakes was on. So they were a AAA affiliate for that before they went to Toledo. I think '87, '88. So it could be longer. They were in Evansville, Nashville, but they went from Evansville to Nashville in the mid '80s. So yeah, Trenton, good call there. I totally forgot about that.
Trenton was only 1 year.
Was that it?
1994. Before that was London. Before that was Glens Falls. Before that it was Birmingham.
Yeah.
Before that was Montgomery. So yeah, they've been all over the place in AA for a while.
So the Purple Aces were after that, the Evansville Triplets, and I'm going to pull up that logo right now because that hat is. I got the London Tigers hat. I do have that. The Triplets were a Minnesota Twins affiliate for a while in the early 70s before they switched to the Tigers. And this logo right here, I'm pulling up here in just a second. And I have by the way, I have the 1981 somewhere. Oh, I do have it. Hang on. Let me. So I have the 1981 Evansville Triplets roster. Is that does feature coached by Jim Leland, right? Who is where's my right there? There's Jim Leland right there.
Is that Jack Nicholson at the ballroom?
At the where?
I'm sorry, it was a Shining reference.
Oh, nicely done. But yes, so the Evansville, to get a better look at it, if you're watching us on YouTube, the Evansville Triplets had a really sweet hat, and it fit the motif of what the Tigers have done with Old English lettering before. And so this is what the Evansville Triplets hat looked like then. Here's Larry Rothschild, who became a pitching coach. And there's, of course, Jim Lever right there. But, yeah, I really like that. Oh, look at that. A rare Mark Fidridge in the minor leagues. But I think it was like 80-81 when he pitched there. So, either way, that is a cool hat. And they haven't made it in a long – they still haven't made it. I don't think they have, but it's always cool to see stuff like that. But, anywho, all right. Enough sidetracked there. We got sidetracked there for a little while, but I was talking about one day, if anybody's ever interested in doing a podcast about fitted hats, I'd love to do that. So, but a lot to get to. We have Toledo, Erie, and West Michigan, and Lakeland to go over. But we did have a question, and this is a question we got from last week that I wanted to go over and start with because it does relate to the minor leagues. And it kind of talks a lot of what we're going to talk about today is all the changes that's been happening. So we saw another pitcher that has been part of the Avila era gone in West Michigan. We'll get to that shortly. So here's a question from Mark, and it was a good one that I missed on Thursday. Listing off a couple batting numbers with MLB ranks. Walks 6.5, second worst. K rate 24.4, fourth highest. Collectively, what is the approach being driven home by coaches? Would it be easier to stomach a high K, low walk rate if they were hitting home runs? They also have the lowest ISO by a wide margin, which is pretty bad. Also, the Tigers keep their minor league pitchers on a pretty strict 30 pitches per inning limit. Are there any more coaches and training precautions to help keep pitchers healthier moving forward? So both questions are pretty good, but I would say they could live with the high strikeout rate if they're hitting for power. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams that are going that way anyway. Strikeouts have gone increasingly up in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember what did I there was some thought about teams were striving to have their isolated power number above their strikeout rate number. So if you have like a 210 ISO, then you would want under 21% strikeouts. Like that's like what you see from the top teams, like the Dodgers and the Astros. Yeah, and like he's talking specifically about the Tigers, the big league level, I think, right? With those numbers, the worst ISO, the strikeouts, the walks. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it all year. Whatever the Tigers are doing at the major league level is not working at all. And we saw that article this week come out about the Braves theoretically fixing Robbie Grossman's swing. I'm going to give it, I don't know, more than 30 plate appearances, but it wouldn't surprise me. And Hinch addressed that today, didn't he? About saying like, yeah, we need to do more here, and they need to do more above us. And yeah, I mean, what they said about the Braves was the guys upstairs, they have basically the wireframe. You've seen some of that via like StatCast, the kind of like skeletal structures. You can see what players are doing. And the Braves apparently said like, hey, this looks different from last year, and we're able to fix it a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious that the Tigers are failing offensively in just about every possible way. It's coaching, it's the analytics, it's the talent of the players. I mean, some of them are more talented than they're playing for sure. but some of them, I guess, just were never as talented as we thought, unfortunately. So I don't know. It feels like a roster that's probably needs, I don't know what, 6, 7 new batters in it before it's competing. When we
10.
saw, yeah, we saw today what some of the guys are capable of doing, right? Riley Green had a spectacular game on both sides of the ball. And Victor Reyes had a great game on both sides of the ball too. To be honest with you, and I don't think Victor Reyes is a part of the future, but yeah, I think you could look at Riley Green as kind of the archetype of what you want going forward, and even he struggled, but we kind of expect that from a 21-year-old first facing major league pitching every day. But yeah, they need to walk more. They need to hit for more power. They need to strike out less. They need to do everything better. They need to hit for more average because Javi Baez is striking out at a near career low rate right now. Right, he's walking about the regular rate. He's just not hitting the ball hard anymore. And everybody wants to blame Scott Coolbaugh for it, but I think there's a lot more that goes into it than just the hitting coach. I think the hitting coaches aren't quite as useless as they used to be. They used to just be there to pound Budweiser with the manager after the game. But there's only so much they can do, right? And that's what bothers me is the whole, we've discussed this a number of times, that the talk about, Scott Coolbaugh changed their swings. But, we're in month 5 of the season. If that were the case, he'd change it back. And it's not like, oh, they can only do it in the offseason. They take batting practice 4 to 5 times a week. Like you can alter your swing pretty quickly if you work on it. So I just think, nothing's working from top to bottom. And that's the result of 7 years of Al Avila and 20 years of poor player development and 40 years of not drafting well. How about that?
Wrong! No, you're right about that. In terms of the blaming the whole school ball or cold ball thing. And he's
going to get fired. I don't.
Yeah,
he's going to get fired. A lot of people are going to get fired. This is going to be a completely new looking organization in about 3 months.
Lynn Henning said something very interesting today on Twitter. But before I get to that, there's just wanted to show you kind of the example of Chris was talking about with the stick figures here, right here on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. And this is involving pitching, but it's very similar. And if you've watched any Ghost Hunter show, I think it's oh god, I forgot the name of the show. My wife really likes the show, and I think it's lame. Paranoia Adventure or Paranormal Adventures. I don't know what the name of the show is, but they use
the real Ghost Wives of California.
They use a camera that I've seen on Xbox, and it shows kind of like very similar to what you see here, and it'll show activity, and it's kind of like the same thing with the skeletal crushers vision of what that is. But just showing an example of that. But I just want to.
Yeah, I kind of assumed the Tigers had stuff like that, but maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe what happened with the Braves. And I'm sure it helps for a player to go from a last place team to a team competing for the playoffs. I'm sure that motivates you too, right? Like they're all humans. You can try as much as you want, but when nobody else is pulling their weight, that it doesn't feel quite as bad if you fail, right?
I mean, it motivated Whit Merrifield to get a vaccine shot. I mean, he's in trial now, so he was like, screw it, I'm playing for Kansas City. I'm not going to get one. That's his prerogative, whatever he wanted to do. And then he was like, wait, I got to go do it because I'm going to play for a team that's hit the postseason. All right, cool.
Cool. And so the second part of his question was about
the minor leagues. Let me get to that part again. I got so fixated on trying to find that. Oh, the Tigers keeping their minor league pitchers on a pretty strict 30 pitches per inning limit. Are there any more coaching, training precautions to help keep pitchers healthy moving forward?
I mean, it doesn't seem like anything that teams do really prevents injuries, right? Every team seems to get hurt. The one thing that makes sense to me about that, what the Tigers do is and they keep these guys on relatively low pitch counts. We've seen the pitch counts climb up into the 90s up in AA, but most guys haven't. I don't think anybody's pitched more than 6 innings this year. And what they're trying to do is avoid the high stress pitches. And so that's what, like, the 30 pitch limit. I think Jackson Jobe got pulled after 32 pitches in his last outing in 1 inning. They just don't want guys to get super tired in 1 inning because that's when they fall out of their mechanics. And when you fall out of your mechanics, that's when something goes wrong. You get hurt. But, everybody gets hurt constantly. Turns out that repeatedly throwing something 90 plus miles an hour is not good for your arm, no matter what you do to it. So In the different schools of thought. I think we've talked about this before. We went out to see Wilmer Flores when he was still in high A. I went up to Lansing to see him, and he got pulled in the first inning because he threw 30 pitches. And Lansing starter, who was a 20-year-old, younger than Flores, pitched like 6 innings. And Oakland just has a different philosophy. They want these guys to go deep into games. The Tigers are going with the Dodgers method now, which is even more extreme than what the Tigers do. We saw multiple times last year where the Dodgers would have guys they were theoretically developing as starters only pitch 1 or 2 innings early in the season. And what the Tigers want to do, what the Dodgers theoretically want to do is get guys used to pitching every 6 days for however many weeks, 22, 23 weeks, or whatever, how long the season is. And then from there, once they're on that schedule, then they can start raising the innings limits. But I don't know. I mean, it's all kind of theoretical, right? Nobody has cracked the code. If and when a team can figure out how to prevent injuries, then that's like the holy grail, right? Like we talk about the Rays and the Dodgers being like the prime examples of player development and the way to run an organization in baseball. They've had as many injuries as anybody. They haven't figured it out, so I wouldn't expect the Tigers to do it either.
The one thing that I really wanted to hit home about, we're talking about people wanting to firing the training staff and what have you. Look, the bottom line is I look at a team. I'll give you an example. I'm looking at the Blue Jays because the Blue Jays, we were just talking about the Blue Jays. They've lost Nate Pearson. They've lost Ryu. They lost Stripling. They also have, Tim. They've had 6 injuries to their staff, to the pitching staff. Okay, all right. So that seems not to be as much compared with speaking of the Tigers, because the Tiger. I mean, even if you look at the Guardians, the Guardians are like, okay, well, what are the Guardians have? They've only lost 2 pitchers on the IL all year, Cody Morris and Anthony Goes. And both were, one was strained shoulder, and for Goes was a strained tricep. Okay, all right. So what about the Royals? Okay, so just give me kind of a sample size of everything. As far as pitchers goes, they've only lost 4. Okay, so I was thinking all the time, like, okay, well, it's across the league. It's across the league. The Tigers haven't seen him out. By the way, Ronnie Garcia will not probably pitch the rest of the year. He's just going to be rest. There's no surgery involved. By the way, I forgot to mention that, and said that yesterday before the game started, or I'm sorry, on Friday. He mentioned that Garcia more likely will not be pitching the rest of the year, just be on rest. But again, also I look at it this way though. Casey Mize probably had an injury before. Again, that's been irresponsible speculation, but he's been hurt since Auburn. He was hurt at Erie. So this doesn't unique to this year. As far as Trimble goes, he was hurt last year. The Tigers, it seems like on the surface, yes, there's been a lot of injuries to the staff. But in reality, I mean, you have Scooble went out. You have Michael Pineda, who also has been, I mean, he's injured every year. He always goes out every single year by default. Bobrisky, forearm soreness, probably because they maxed him out. He's thrown the most innings. But outside of that, Funkhauser, he had injury issues before. So there's some logical explanation to all this. It's not fire the entire training staff or Ronnie Garcia, by the way, word Vango. Ronnie Garcia. Brian pitched, I think, today for Toledo, today or yesterday. So, but again.
Yeah, Brian pitched yesterday. Sorry, I was looking something up. Yeah, I don't know. It felt like for a long time the Tigers were among the healthier pitching staffs in baseball. This was leading up to like 2-3 years ago. And part of that was probably they just had a bunch of really good pitchers who were horses, Verlander and Scherzer and stuff, but Sanchez was always kind of hurt. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly something that they need to examine in the offseason. Like there are teams that seems to run into this issue year after year, like the Angels, for example. The Angels can never find enough quality pitching. Patrick Sandoval notwithstanding. But it just seems like they're always, every time they try, somebody gets hurt. So it's something they need to take a look at. And if they need to, they think that somebody has a better training regimen and a better system, then go for it. But I think, sometimes a bunch of bad stuff happens at once, and it would that's how religion was made, right? A bunch of bad things happen, and you got to blame it on somebody.
good way to put it. But there's, no, you're right. You have to blame somebody, but at the same time, like I said, I just think that in a microcosm of things, the injuries, some of them have been. You look at Tarek Skubal, who's also had surgery before,
What?
and go ahead.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know. I've never looked this up to see because he's getting the flexor tendon surgery, right? Which is what Matthew Boyd got.
Yeah.
And it's what Walker Bueller, I believe, is getting or got. And both Bueller and Skubal already had Tommy John surgery on their resume. So I wonder if that's kind of a natural progression. After you have Tommy John surgery, you keep pitching, your arm is different, but there's still things. If you hadn't already had, fixed your elbow ligament with a tendon from somewhere else in your body, you might have torn it again. Instead, it's your flexor tendon. So I don't know. It just, like I said, it's pitching is not good for the body. And some guys are just genetic freaks, but they're pretty rare. And the rest of pitchers, you just kind of try to manage the pain and hope they can fight through it and heal on a regular basis or regular schedule, as it were.
As far as in the YouTube chat, somebody asked about any news in the GM search. Nothing as of yet. Right now, I don't think we're going to hear anything till towards the end of the season, if anything. Because go ahead, Chris.
I've heard rumors that they've already interviewed several people, but who those people are, no idea.
Yeah, it's I haven't, like I said, the only thing that we know right now is the day-to-day operation side of things. Sam Mezen is working with AJ Hinch, and so some of the things I wanted to get to. One of the things I want to get to real quick before we start breaking down the teams, and we'll continue with questions here in a second. And it is the fact that the Tigers have seen some minor league changes. So first and foremost, today was announced. It was today the 21st, right? So make sure it's okay. So Joe Miller was signed the Flying Tigers from the Complex League. Gio Arrieta was released today. It was funny because I just saw him literally pitching a bullpen session out of Lansing last week, or when we were in Lansing a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And so he's been released. So then from there, looks like among another guy that we mentioned him before only once or twice, but Wilmer Phelon was also released today.
Yeah, Wilmer Fenelon. Well, he was released the other day. Not to be confused with his cousin Wilmer A. Fenelon. Oh, yeah. They released one of their Wilmer Fenelons, but the other one is still remains. Yeah, I mean, part of this, you do have to wonder if any of this is related to Al Avila being fired. There's been a slew of roster moves in the last couple of weeks, but it's also timed with a lot of these draft picks in undrafted free agents signing and joining teams, and so they have to make room for them somewhere. But yeah, it does feel like Gio Arrieta was the 4th round pick in 2017, right? So yeah, it does feel a little bit like they were, maybe Avila was holding on to him, just holding out hope that something good would come out of the 2017 draft. And once he's gone, there's not a whole lot of attachment remaining to him. But he had a good arm. He just never figured it out. The breaking ball never really was consistently good. And so there you go. But yeah, and you mentioned the Joe Miller. There's also the Jake Miller, I'm always going to confuse them for the rest of their lives as long as they're in the system, because they were drafted like 9th and 11th by the Tigers, and I think they're both lefties. But anyway.
So if you're those for scoring at home, you're keeping track of the draft right now. So right now, the 2016 draft has Matt Manning, who pitched really well. I saw him pitch on Saturday. It was a really good outing. It was Friday. Was it? Yeah, it was Friday. It was Friday he pitched. And I asked him, I was like, well, he was only throwing his fastball and slider. And he was like, well, if he's getting outs with those, does it really matter if he's not throwing a third pitch? Which is a fair rebuttal. And of course, it's the manager.
Yeah, but you can't survive with 2 pitches for very long. You can occasionally have an Edwin Jackson season or Dinelson Lamet or whatever. But after a while, hitters go, hey, he's not going to throw me anything other than these 2 hard pitches. I'm going to wait and pick one. But
yeah, I mean, he struck out Ohtani and Trout back to back, so I can't fault the guy. And basically, and David Work, our former intern who just a semester graduated,
graduated intern,
mentioned, back in the 60s was a lot less analytical, more or less pitching your arms fall off. Oh, exactly. I mean, there's been
because
huge leaps in data.
Yeah, and Ward Vango asked this question. I don't know if you posted it, but were pitchers just different back in the day? Lolich, 376 innings, 71.4 consecutive over 300. They were different. they didn't throw as hard as possible on
Yeah.
every pitch and they probably didn't top 90 miles an hour very often. The gains in velocity, and that's the number one correlation to arm injury is throwing harder. That's the number one. People talk about splitters or breaking balls or anything like that. It's just throwing harder. The harder you throw, the more likely you're going to get hurt. So if guys are throwing 84 to 86 back in the 60s, I mean, like Bob Gibson I'm sure was throwing it in the 90s and things like that. But and we saw there were great pitchers. Sandy Koufax blew his arm out, right? I mean, he was done by the age of 31 or so. Some guys did pitch really well and really hard, and then they didn't have the medical advances back then to keep pitching. So I don't think the humans were built any different. I just don't think they were throwing as hard or as consistently hard.
Well, I mean, look at an example like Fernando Valenzuela and Willie Hernandez come to mind, or Guillermo Hernandez, because they both threw screwballs. And screwball, I mean, Fernando, for what it's worth, Tommy Lasorda left Fernando out there 120, 140 pitches sometimes. When you throw a screwball like that, the kind of torque it takes on your elbow, no wonder. I mean, if you think about if Fernando Valenzuela, imagine him starting pitching now, like 90 pitches or something like that, or a modest amount. How long of his career? Because by 1990, he was already done. I mean, this guy, I think it was rookie year 81, 80. And yeah, it's one of those pitches where it took so much. And same thing with Guillermo Hernandez. He came in like gangbusters to 1984 because no one had ever seen him before because he pitched in the National League. He threw a screwball. He was a lefty. And you have to realize that it took a while for teams to adjust, but by 1987, he was toast. And essentially he was out of the league by 1989.
Well, yeah, and Valenzuela is a great example. You just mentioned it. He came up at what, 19, 20?
Yeah.
I'm looking at his stats. He threw 250 innings each year from 21 to 25, and that was basically it for him. He ceased to be a good pitcher at age 26. And think of Dwight Gooden. Dwight Gooden threw something like 250 innings as a 20-year-old. Can you imagine that? That's like Jackson Jobe right now. They come up and throw 9 innings every 4 days. It's just a different game. And that's, I think, we like to look back and think of someone like Nolan Ryan or whatever, who just was a horse forever. But they're probably hundreds of would have been great starting pitchers who blew out really quickly that we've never heard of, right? Guys that maybe it just started, like, think of someone like a Spencer Turnbull back in, I don't know, 1964, right? It took him a little while to figure it out. And once he finally did, then he blew his arm out and he never came back because they didn't have any recourse for that back in the day. So I'm sure that happened all the time.
I mean, for example, I remember in the book when the year of the pitcher where McLean was talking about getting shots. They tell him, he's like, the shots were wearing off him. He didn't want to do it anymore. And a guy, cortisone shots. And look at 1983 in high A ball at Lynchburg, Dwight Gooden threw 191 pitches, or excuse me, 191 innings. 191 innings in minor league ball. Do you imagine that right now? If I told you that Jackson Jobe would have thrown 191 innings, you guys would have
in the minors.
In the minors. Pointless.
He threw 218 in 1984 as a 19-year-old, and then 276 as a 20-year-old.
He started in 27 games in the minor leagues in his 83 season before he made the team in 84. 191 innings. It sounds to me, when you kind of think about it too, it sounds insane, but that was normal. You go out there because they're trying to prep you for what's to come. And the Lolich word Van Gogh, every time I see that he pitched over 3, like, that blows my mind that he was that durable. And I mean, he ended up being a better pitcher. You can argue because of they won 2 back-to-back Cy Youngs, but in the long run, Lolich had a better career, or longer career rather. I mean, you can argue that he had a better career too, because he is the all-time leader in strikeouts for the Tigers among left-handed pitchers. But yeah, and Fidrich, and that's the same thing I heard. I mean, when you're pitching, he was like fooling around in spring training. That's how he hurt his knee, and it's just kind of a downfall because he had to overcompensate, and that's a whole different thing altogether. Can you imagine the advances of video that if all Lolich would have to, or Lolich, but Fidrich would have to do is go, okay, I'm going to look at this video and see how I pitched before and just kind of readjust that way. He could never make the adjustment because you start hearing about Tony Gwynn, who was one of the first guys who started looking at video to get better at his craft. So It's fascinating now to watch this, but just again, Dwight Gooden, 191 innings in high A ball. That's ridiculous. That's like 4 pitchers put together in some cases. I'm not even slightly exaggerating that, but it's just
I can't even remember a minor league pitcher going 150 innings, like a prospect. I can't. It's been a while since that. Yeah, it's just a different game now. And to just kind of wrap it up, like I don't necessarily think what the Tigers are doing is good or bad. I just think to me it makes sense that you're trying to get these guys prepared to get to the major leagues, and so you want to be very efficient with the innings that you use on them, right? You want them to learn how to get through the order at least twice, hopefully 3 times, and you want them to use all their pitches, but you don't want them to waste any bullets in the minors if they don't have to.
Right.
And it just depends on what kind of development they want these guys to do. Like, you look at Wilmer Flores. Wilmer Flores' stats are terrific in Double-A. You could argue that he's just kind of wasting his time there, but when you watch him pitch, you say, okay, there's still some things he needs to work on. This isn't going to work at the big league level. It is just a matter of, do you want him working on a Double-A or a team that might make the playoffs? Do you want him working on it in Triple-A where they're trying to get to the playoffs, or do you want him working on it in the big leagues where the Tigers are a walking disaster?
You know what's funny, by the way? Just I wanted to look this up real quick. Was Kerry Wood at the age of, in terms of his numbers, at age 19 in High A Dayton when they were in the Florida State League, was 114 innings pitched. The following season, at age 20, between Double-A and Triple-A, he threw 151 innings. So
and he was up in the bigs that year too, wasn't he? At 20,
yes, he was.
He
was 20. He was 21.
Right.
So yeah, he was only in Iowa for a minute before they called him up. But anyway, that's just a little more of a modern example, but still, it's changed dramatically. And as far as the Tigers goes, there's actually a plan in place, because remember, we've talked about this before, Chris. Oh, just throw your game out there and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we just haven't talked to players this year, unfortunately, except for the few times when we'll see them when they're charting pitches, sitting next to us or near us in the stands or in the press box or whatever. So we haven't really been able to bend their ear and find out what exactly their plans are this year. But it does seem like there's definitely a change from the last few years where it was just go out there and roll the ball up there and let the guy pitch and figure it out on his own. So there's progress there.
I mean, we did hear from other people, reliable people, that there's each pitcher does have an individual plan. So
yeah, that's right. I do remember hearing that. That yeah, everybody has their own specific plan, not just the prospects, and that's the way it should be. And to be honest, I mean, we've seen a lot of pitchers kind of take some real gains this year, from Garrett Hill and Bo Brisky down to Austin Bergner, Brent Herter, like all these arms that look pretty good now. The system, it is strange. They've gone through 15 arms at the big league level, but it does feel like they've got reinforcements on the way over the next couple of years to help with that. So that part is working, the pitching development. They're still not developing aces, but that's the hardest thing to find in baseball, and that's why I guess you take a Jackson Jobe high and hope that you can mold that. He's got those ingredients. You got to mold them into a cookie still, and mix them all together right. Otherwise, it's just dough and flour and baking powder. I don't know how to make a cookie.
You don't want raw cookie dough. Raw cookie dough is delicious, but also
I mean, I'll eat that, sure, but you don't want that pitching.
No. And the thing is, ultimately, one of the things that I wanted to mention about that, because I just wrote an article for it on woodwardsports.com. Minor league rankings ain't shit. I'm sorry. Look, everybody getting look. You can say with merit the Tigers are ranked 27th according to Baseball America. There's something to be said about that, because they haven't not developed players on a positional player level. Okay, fine. But look at the Houston Astros. They're number 26. And guess what? They're in first place by a lot. And they were ranked, they were coming into this season 28th. 28th. Okay, folks. You have Pena, you have Chaz
McCormick.
Chaz McCormick.
Hunter Brown that they got from Wayne State is a highly ranked prospect. Yeah, I mean, it's teams like that, they don't worry about the prospect rankings because they're going to get contributions from all sorts of guys, whether they're highly ranked or not. And that's kind of, the Tigers were very much a mirage, right? They had 5 highly ranked prospects. We talked about it even when that happened. We said, they've got 5 25 or top 25 prospects. Now what? They're the first team ever that had 5 top 25 prospects, but also the first team that had 5 prospects in the top 50 without anybody in the top 100 after that. It was just a special, perfect storm. And then what happens? 2 of those guys get injured. 3 of them, really. 3 of the pitchers get injured. The top hitter, he doesn't perform. The other hitter struggles. And there you go. You've got a fired GM because there's nothing behind them.
Look, I'm showing you like right now. Don't mind the camera view for a moment, but look at my office. Okay, when I had pennants up, look at my office. There's no pennants that celebrate the Tigers being 5th ranked in Baseball America because no one gives a shit. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What rankings is that? It's like the Lions celebrating the 1991 NFC Championship title appearance.
Yeah.
You knew full well that going into Washington, they're going to get their asses kicked because it was just a tradition that they did that. So again, it doesn't matter. I've seen enough there with Parker Meadows, with Winslow Perez, and we'll get to Toledo here in a second. There's enough there to say, okay, it's vastly different than even last year. I mean, the Parker Meadows stuff that everybody all of a sudden, I find it funny about Parker Meadows. We've been talking about Parker Meadows all year, Chris, all year. And now everybody's talking about his last start since June 1st. Okay, welcome to paying attention to minor league baseball stats and putting them together and realizing that he's been doing this since West Michigan, folks.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Meadows, he was off to that incredibly hot start, cooled off a little bit, and then they set him up anyway. And then he struggled in Double-A for a month, 6 weeks. It wasn't great at the beginning, but he's been really good since then, like a 140 WRC plus over the last 10, 11 weeks. And so, yeah, I mean, he's secured himself a spot on the 40-man roster at the very least. And I think there's a possibility that you could see him on the Tigers next year. I don't know how well he'll perform, but he's refound his prospect status and is at least someone to pay attention to, which is a nice success story this year for sure.
Definitely. I just think it's just funny because all of a sudden it's just like, no, and people are like, no one predicted it. It's like, well, yeah, nobody did. And anybody who says they did they're full of crap, quite frankly. So, but let's get into Toledo this week. As far as hitters go, one guy who's put himself back on the map a little bit was a good week from Spencer Torkelson, as he went 8 for 19, hit bad a slash line of 421, 522, and 526 with an OPS over 1,000. His walk to strikeout ratio is nice, 4 walks to 6 strikeouts, and no home runs, but it's okay. There was 2 doubles to go with, but overall better at bats and can't really complain.
And I think Hinch said he sent Torkelson some video.
Yeah,
like, Hey, what if you swing like this? Which is fine. Yeah, so yeah, that was probably the best news from Toledo this week. Other than what did they split theirs? They went 3-2 against Columbus. Sunday, today's game was rained out. It's just annoying. I'll say this just as a general overview. The Tigers played 3 different affiliates for Cleveland this week, and Mark Gorosh always talks about process and profile, man. But like the profile is what I think every time with Cleveland. They're the same from the majors down to A-ball. They have good pitching and they have hitters who don't swing and miss at every level.
Yeah,
it's super annoying, and it really got on Erie's nerves this week. I'll say that much. Yeah. But yeah, so thanks for the Nuttons to take 3 of 5 from Columbus. Josh Lester is kind of doing his usual late summer heater, right? I think what do you have 3 home runs this week? 6 for 24, yes. 3 doubles, 3 homers.
Yeah,
not bad.
Not bad at all. And by the way, screw Akron. We'll get to Akron shortly because the Justin. By the way, Justin L, who works for the Guardians Baseball Insider, great guy, love the guy. He was asking me about some of the miles per hour for some of the pitchers because Erie's radar gun was a little off. But it was funny because I wanted to message him just like, can the Rubber Ducks just stop? Because stop. I mean, the bullpen. Greg Gagne, God bless you, man. Your blood pressure must have been high this week. So come on.
We'll get to Erie. Yeah, we'll get to Erie.
Yeah.
But it's the Mud Hens right now are kind of an interesting mix of kind of older prospects where there's a little bit of fatigue and like guys like Torkelson, right? And Andre Lipsius had a quiet week, but was solid. Just a very Lipsius week, 5 for 16, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs. Ryan Kreidler, a very bizarre week, 3 for 20, all 3 hits were doubles. He walked 4 times, but also struck out 12 times. That's just strange. And Daz Cameron was about the same, 3 for 19 with a home run and 10 strikeouts. So I don't know. But again, it's always good pitching when you're facing Guardians affiliates. So the strikeout numbers are not terribly surprising to me.
As far as, and here's the thing about Kreidler, by the way, who Hinch mentioned that you might want to see some time with. You're gonna see Scope. Scope might hit the IL. Not sure yet. They're not gonna make any announcements until the Giants come into town on Tuesday for I believe 2 games. So if they have to make a decision on that, he could Hinch has suggested he wanted to see him at some point. So we'll see. I mean, Andre Lipsius has played better than Kreidler the last few weeks. Again, Kreidler just. I know that a lot of I got a question. I got somebody DM me a question about whether they see him as a starting third baseman next year if Canalero's non-tendered. I can't answer that question because I don't know. Again, if it's somebody within the organization, we could see him get a tryout. But if it's somebody else, this is what I was going to say about Lynn Henning. Lynn Henning said today that this is going to be an offseason with a lot of headlines and news every week, which is good for us, for content creation for us, definitely. But if it's going to be somebody else, they have a different process and profile, then it's all up in the air. It really is. I think that there's going to be sweeping change. There's still going to be sweeping changes to come. And since the day Avila got let go, it's slowly building, slowly coming out of that way. You see it now, even in the way that they are using, for example, the Tigers are going to a 4-man rotation. Hinch talked about that until the beginning of September. And they're putting Norris and Hill in the bullpen. They're watching Hill's innings, which is a good idea because you don't want to happen what happened with Brisky. So that's a good idea for that. Speaking of pitching, by the way, for Toledo, in terms of what we've seen the last week, Joey Wentz, who will probably get some time up at Detroit at some point. He had 1 start, really good start, 5 innings, 3 hits, 5 strikeouts. Eduardo in his rehab start, excellent job.
Excellent, yeah.
11 strikeouts. He looked really good today, too. Against the Angels, he looked, and I'm glad he's back.
You see why they paid him. He throws strikes for the most part. It wasn't a great introduction at the beginning of the season when he was walking guys and stuff, but he's just not going to give in to hitters and
not giving in.
Exactly. I was waiting for it. Yeah, he's a good mid-rotation starter, and that's why they got him to anchor the rotation. And it is nice to have him back.
Yeah, it was good to have him back. And then Adam I like that comment there. By the way, where Van goes also that again, when we always see that about Mark Fidrich, it was classic. Ricardo Sanchez, who the Tigers acquired from the Philadelphia Phillies, which meant it was a trade after Avila. So everything's cool with the Phillies now. Apparently there's good synergy now. I don't know what the synergy symbol is, but he made his first start. What were you going to say, Chris?
Well, yeah, he and Chichi. He started too. Those guys are just there. Those are emergency starters in case something else goes terribly wrong. And then who else? We saw Bergner. Bergner came out of the bullpen for 3 innings last night. That was the game Brian Garcia started, and Bergner came out 3 scoreless. I think he gave up 1 hit, 1 strikeout. So I don't know if that's them just monitoring his innings or preparing him for a bullpen role again. I'm not sure.
I think it might be preparing for bullpen role because I think that if you look at the bullpen right now with the Tigers, in a way, it kind of worked out well. I mean, we've seen Soto, Chafin, and Lang be the kind of go-to along with Jimenez, and the bullpen's been able to bail out the starting pitching. The Tigers have had really good starting pitching recently. I mean, it's pretty impressive considering the hodgepodge rotation they've had to make up. Saw 2 quality starts back-to-back from Alexander and Manning. But as far as AAA goes, yeah, I don't know if we'll see Chichi or Ricardo Sanchez at all. Maybe Brian Garcia might make an appearance, but Wentz definitely could see back in a couple starts in September. And the Tigers are going to need it because as far as Bergner goes, we've talked about this velocity too. It's dropped a little bit from last year. He's still getting guys out in the low 90s. So I'm interested to see if we can find some numbers about his spin rate at some point or some of those numbers, because I'm curious if that's up. Yes, he did have only 83 innings in 2021, but I think they're going to be cautious about that, Michael, because with all the injuries, honestly, I don't blame him. Like if the loss of velocity compared to this year, that could be a reason why they might be monitoring his innings more. I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, we remember his innings were low last year because he started the season as a reliever. I think he was a reliever all the way until he got promoted from Lakeland to West Michigan, and then they needed him in the rotation. Did the same thing with Brendan White, and I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is working better out of the rotation for some reason. And so yeah, it'll just be interesting to see. And since he was in Lakeland last year, I think I can go back and look at his spin rates and stuff. But for him, I think it's a situation, not necessarily the spin, but more like the the attack angle, because he seems to be getting swings and misses with his 92-mile-an-hour fastball at the letters, and hitters just aren't picking it up. So he's got kind of an interesting delivery. But yeah, he's another guy we may see at some point. So
as far as Erie goes this week, let's go to Erie in terms of the starting rotation. They had really good pitching all week, and they got screwed by the bullpen. We're not going to go over the bullpen first. We're going to go with the starting rotation.
I did put together the numbers if you want to hear them.
Yeah, go for it, Chris.
So yeah, I mean, like you said, they played 7 games against Akron this week, and they got 6 really excellent starts. The Sawyer Gibson Long had kind of the one stinker, and a lot of that was just he's a sinker baller, and sometimes the balls go where the fielders aren't. So it was like 3 1/3 and 9 hits, 5 earned runs. But the rest of the rotation, I'm looking overall, the starters gave up 10 runs over 37 2/3 innings, which is a 2.4 ERA. And the bullpen gave up 22 runs in 21 innings, which is not good. So, yeah, I mean, they blew leads of, they blew an 8-2 lead the other night. Today, they blew leads of 3-0, 4-3. They blew a 1-0, which is not as egregious, but it still sucks. They lost. The bullpen blew leads 3 games in a row. And it's what sucks about that is they're fighting for a playoff spot, right? The Seawolves are tied with Bowie. They could have taken, going 2-5 if they had just gone 5-2. I mean, you're up 3 games or whatever. So it's a real bummer. And they let Akron stay in it. Akron's only 5 games back or 4 games back now. So it's it feels a little bit like the end of the first half of the season, which is not great. But anyway.
Yeah, JT Hitson. I don't know why they left him in so long. That was the one part. I think it was Friday. Was it Friday or Saturday? I can't remember.
I think that was the Saturday game.
Yeah,
that was the one where they blew the 8-2 lead, because that was Flores. Flores with his second strong start of the week. Well, no, he just had 1 start. It was Kirby that had 2 starts this week. Both of them solid. Today he gave up a bunch of hits and didn't strike any guys out, but I think it was only 3 runs.
Yeah, Flores.
Yeah, I don't know. That sucks, man. Flores leaves up 8-2, 6 good innings, and they lose. It's hard to fathom.
And Madden continues to adjust AA well. 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. So he has no problem with that. And it looks like Reese Olson in the last 2 starts has gotten his groove back. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run on 8 strikeouts. And Adam Wolf, who has been used as a swingman, more or less, out of the bullpen and starting 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. So that was good to see. And as far as, again, lefties, because, again, I'm always going to be paying attention to that. But there is the only one that didn't do too bad out of the bullpen was Yaya Shanouf, who is not allowed to run and 2 strikeouts. So we heard something interesting, too, like this guy should be up already. Didn't the scout tell you that, by the way? Was that last week?
I don't know. Was it Shintoof or was it? I don't know. He was just saying that about basically all the relievers down in West Michigan. Like, why is this guy here? Why is this? I think he was talking about like Ted Stuka. Ted Stuka throwing 95-mile-an-hour sidearm, boring sinkers. Like, why is this guy here? But yeah, like you said, Flores, Madden, Olson this week. I don't. It was last week. He got 25 swings and misses, which is spectacular. And this week, I think it was close to 20 or 15 or something like that. But it was something we talked about with Madden. Ty Madden didn't miss a ton of bats down at West Michigan. The most he ever missed in any start was 11 swings and misses, which he did 4 times. And in his 3 starts with Erie, he's gotten 11, 13, and 17. And it seems, just from watching, it seems like he's throwing his changeup a lot more. So I don't know if that was part of a plan or it was like, hey, why don't you do this? Like, oh yeah, that works. Because I remember a while back, I was like, I think he's throwing a cutter now. I haven't really seen that since. So I don't know if that was just him overthrowing a slider or what, but he seems to be using all his pitches, and he's gotten better results with each start. So, I mean, that's encouraging to see. And somebody else pointed out in our YouTube video, and it was something I hadn't looked at before, someone said, hey, he's pitching much better than Jack Leiter, who was the number 2 overall pick in the draft. And I looked at it and like, yeah, he actually is. Now, Leiter's been in Double-A all year. But it's just it goes to show you that I think any of these guys drafted in the last couple seasons, when you have to factor in the COVID 2020 season, I think it's just hard to get your bearings on how good these guys are. From
Yeah.
Torkelson to Madden, like just these guys who didn't have the full 3 years or full 2 years to evaluate. It's hard to find out exactly what they're all about.
It's going to take some time. I mean, that's why I don't understand when people write off Torkelson already. It's like, it's probably a combination of trolling and just idiocracy. But as far as the hitting department goes, Parker Meadows can't lose. I mean, I'll keep making that dated reference, and I will continue to pound it into the ground for anybody probably 30 and under. They probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But for people that do, Parker Meadows this week was 7 for 22 this week. He had 2 home runs, 3 walks to 4 strikeouts, batting .318, .393, and .727 with an OPS over 1,000. And Gage Workman, by the way, I want to salute Gage Workman because he had a pretty good week as well. He was 6 for 22. He also had a home run, hitting .273, OPS over just over 80 or 800 rather. And again, the walks, strikeouts kind of still stand out. 8 strikeouts to 1 walk, but that's who he is. That's who Gage Workman is.
Yeah, I mean it's always so hit and miss with him. Like, pardon the pun there, but it is like he does an incredible amount of damage when he makes contact. I think 50% of his hits this year have gone for extra bases. He's got 40 extra base hits this year. But yeah, it's also a 40% strikeout rate, and that's not going to work at higher levels, which is super unfortunate because he also stole his 29th base this year. He's fast, he's aggressive, he's a solid fielder. He hits the ball incredibly hard. He just doesn't hit it enough. And so we talked. I mean, you have to send him back to Erie next year. I think you can't really put that guy up at AAA. And it just, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to improve. If he can get the strikeout rate down to 30%, that would be a massive improvement. And you could work with that because it would probably get up to about 35, 40 in the big league, but which is about as high as it could go. But I don't know. It is worth pointing out when he does good things, and he did. Home run today was off Gavin Williams, who is a top 75 prospect in baseball. Meadows hit a home run off him too. That was a really impressive 0-2 fastball, basically at the letter. He climbed up and got it, which was cool to see. And then Meadows' other home run, of course, was that inside the Parker earlier.
Oh yeah.
This week. People were like, "What are those outfielders doing?" Because it was a funny collision, but it was a no hitter at the time, and so they were going all out trying to catch it, and then that's what led to them bumping into each other at full speed.
Yeah, it was. And Meadows, I mean, people forget. I even admittedly forget how quick Parker Meadows is for his size to move as fast as he does, which is why he's still in center field. He covers a lot of ground, and there was a couple of Discord comments about that. And one of the things that was mentioned too, and I'll give credit to Jake Bowes about this because he made a good point. One of the numbers that we didn't think about was how he did against lefties. So in terms of how his numbers are this year across the board against left-handed pitching, they don't boast very well. And I think it was like 190. I'm trying to find it here. I just saw that.
Its OPS is like 300 points lower against lefties this year.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal, but I'd rather that than him just having a 600 OPS overall, which is kind of what he was doing the last few years. At least he's hitting righties now.
I mean, for sample size, looking at what he did at West Michigan, was he batted under 100 at West Michigan against lefties. I'm trying to find what he did in Erie, and for whatever reason, I can't find it at the moment. But either way, I was something along the lines of, I remember I put it, but he was not hitting very well. It was under 200 with not a lot of power against lefties. That's something worth mentioning. But the upside of everything else he puts together, it's something you can live with. Because with more at bats in Erie, or if he starts the season at AAA next year, which is totally feasible, I think I could see him starting the season in AAA.
Yeah, I mean, if Erie weren't pushing for a playoff spot, I wouldn't be shocked if they actually moved him up now. The way he's performed over the last 10, 12 weeks is worthy of another promotion. So, yeah, I think he wouldn't shock me. Also, I think he's a prime candidate to go to the Arizona Fall League.
Definitely.
Get some more consistent plate appearances against future big leaguers. And so that's, like I said earlier, I mean, he's been one of the most positive developments in the system this year, and he's probably ranked too lowly at most services.
Yeah, which is, again, people, there's a lot of prospects to watch out. So sometimes
Ranked
you take
low.
that rank low. By the way, 190, 220, 304 against lefties here with OPS of 523. Compared to speaking the right-handers where he's 874. So that's a huge drop off between lefties and righties. So yeah.
But I don't think, traditionally speaking, it was never that bad. He was actually better against lefties than he was against righties the first couple of years of his season, or career. So, those sample sizes are always a little bit small, but it's certainly, he wouldn't be the first left-handed hitter to struggle against same side pitching. So, like I said, we'll stick with what is working right now, and it's nice to see him perform against righties because it means he's performing at all.
So yeah, I mean, again, we're having a discussion about him in August of 2022. That's a good thing. Yeah. So speaking of a good thing, by the way, West Michigan, we go to them, and Chris, how did they do this week against? I'm trying to blank on
split.
even.
They went 3-3 against Lake County. So, which is another bummer because they were up 3-1 and then lost the final two games. Actually, both of them were completed today. And Lake County, again, a Cleveland affiliate.
That's right.
Lake County is now in first place, one game ahead of West Michigan, who was 29-19. So, it's just a bummer. There's so many talented players in the Cleveland system. They have 9 top 100 prospects or something stupid like that. But but West Michigan did their thing, and they're doing it. They've lost a lot of talented players this year, either to promotion or to injury. So they welcomed some new guys in, and they just keep chugging along.
Yeah, the guy. So Lazaro Benitez joined some from Lakeland, which kind of did not see that coming. He, along with Esne Chacon, who was called up earlier this year, or actually in July, I should say. But that was good to see. And then Alberto Valencia, who had a bomb, his first home run in West Michigan was a bomb. It was to the scoreboard. But he's off kind of a slow start. But Josh Crouch, again, this is why he's so high on our prospect list, the top 25 list. He has 4 walks and 3 strikeouts. And by the way, I have a write-up from our associate in Martin, who Marty saw him live on Saturday. So I'm going to have to post that up. I'm guilty of not posting. He's also got a report on Kreidler, and I have these prospects reports somewhat done. But today, by the way, the reason I keep scratching my nose like I am, I don't want people to think I'm a coke addict or something, but allergies are really bad today. I mean, I've had a sinus infection all day, and
I don't judge anybody for their coke habits. We already talked about Dwight Gooden today.
Yeah, but he also missed a parade because he was doing coke.
Yeah. Does anybody really like parades?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't like them. I went to the Pistons one back to back, both title ones in the late 80s, and that was on somebody's shoulders. I don't remember that, but anyway, okay. I don't get too sidetracked. But Josh Crouch, 7 for 23 this week, 304, 407, 435, and he has been a good model of consistency. Another guy who had a really good week. It may not exactly reflect it in terms of his batting average. Was Jake Holton.
Jake Holton.
Yeah, 9 walks to 4 strikeouts, Chris.
I think he got hit a bunch of times too. Yeah, no, Jake Holton has been just a terrific kind of steady presence for the Whitecaps all year. He's the Whitecaps equivalent of like your Dane Myers, right, or your Quincy Niporti, just a rock in the middle of the batting order that is going to hit you some power, get on base, and play well. So it was another good week for him. And,
Austin Murr.
Yeah, Austin Murr, classic Austin Murr. I think he had 9 hits, and they were all singles. It's a
singles machine.
Yeah, Merchero.
I still like him as a player too. And as far as pitching goes this week, was there anything that really came out to you at all in terms of the starters this week?
Well, I mean, you had Dylan Smith. It's nice to have him back in the rotation. He made 2 starts. One of them was pretty good. Today he was not as good. He struggled to kind of put guys away. He ended up with 5 strikeouts in 4 innings, but it was a lot of pitches. And I don't think he only walked a guy, but it was just his command was off. So it was only 4 innings. We saw the high A debut of Garrett Burhead, which was okay. Again, I think it was 4 innings, seven hits, only a couple strikeouts. But there's usually some bumps when a guy moves up a level. But other than that, yeah, it was. We had Carlos Guzman with 5 scoreless, had a good outing. Brant Herter in his final outing, solid 5 innings, 2 earned runs, and Kader Montero was 5 innings, 2 earned runs. So their starting rotation was pretty solid this week. They just didn't get a lot of innings from them, a lot of bullpen innings this week, and that led to, by the end of the week, that adds up. And we saw Trevin Michael, their 9th round pick, I think, or 10th rounder this year. He made his high A debut today. And again, when you go up a level, sometimes it's bumpy. He gave up a couple hits, including a home run. Didn't have the cleanest outing, but it happens. So, it was what you would expect from a 3-3 week. Really, I think some ups, some downs. We Chase Young, we can talk about him. I've been talking about him in the Discord a little bit because I don't know. It's so early that I don't want to make any rash judgments. He went 4 for 20 with a double, 7 walks and 9 strikeouts. He's a very patient hitter. And to me, he almost looks passive at times, like he's trying to walk. That's his goal. And he's been late, it seems like, on everything when he's swinging. So even when he's showing any glimpses of power, it's basically to the opposite field. And I don't know if that is just his approach. I don't remember him being that oppo-oriented in college. Or it's just him getting acclimated to pro ball after basically 2 months off, which both of those are possibilities. So I'm not going to make any sweeping judgments yet, but he's hanging in there, certainly getting on base plenty. So that helps.
Yeah. And one of the things that you were talking about in Discord, which I was trying to, you made some good assessments about his footwork out in the infield. And one of the things that I think that really, I think that I can make right away is the fact that he's not look overmatched right now in West Michigan. He does not. I would like to see a little bit more. I know the quickness does kind of concern me a little bit. The footwork. The more I looked at some of his, somebody mentioned this. I think it was Eddie Bajak mentioned on Twitter that play he made. It looked like it was harder than what it was. It's just him. At footwork, but.
Yeah, I mean, he's like I called him a gamer, right? Like it's like the Cody Clemens gamer to a certain extent, Riley Green, right? Where these guys, they're gamers, they're going to make plays whenever they have a chance, but they're not. It's not ideal positioning. It's not ideal speed. It's they'll do what they can, and they're going to try really hard. But yeah, I mean, Jace Young is limited athletically, and his hands aren't all that great. So it just he's gonna do what he can. And other than that, you just got to hope for the power to come. That the hitting's okay, the walks are good. So, and again, it's his first pro season. I'm not making any judgments. It's a big jump from the Big 12 to high A baseball. So, but just keeping an eye on him.
No, and also I forgot to mention Brent Hurdler, by the way, before his last start, before he went to Erie, 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, and 7 strikeouts. He walked 2, and that's a good sign of progress too. This is a guy who moved up since Lakeland. Now he's in Double-A, and that's a good story for. In terms of, here's the thing about Tigers in terms of pitchers that have been drafted in the lower rounds. This guy was a 7th round draft pick, so. But it's a good thing to say that it's not a top 5 round draft pick that's moving up this quickly. Usually, in the case of that, you usually would see somebody within the first 5 rounds, right, Chris? I mean, the 7th round, kind of rare. Is it rare? I don't want to say rare, but it doesn't seem like something that happens very often lately in Tigers.
No, yeah, I mean, I would say that it's relatively rare. Like I'm trying to think. So Skubal made it up to, I think he made it up to Erie in his first full season.
Yeah,
because
I think
he pitched in West Michigan after the draft, and we thought he was still kind of a reliever. And then he started out in Lakeland, made it up to West Michigan. So it's a good sign. It's a good sign if you're making it up there. Like, I don't want to like negatively point out somebody, but Jordan Marks, who I think went in the 6th round, he was started off in high A and was not very good, and he's now down in low A. Brent Herder started off in low A, and he's now in Double-A. So I think part of that is yeah, he earned it, and he's looked good to me. He was high on our list, our midseason list too, because he looks like a legit big league pitcher to me. Strikeouts, limiting the walks, and so yeah, I'm really interested to see how he does in Double-A once he goes up there. And I still feel like they need to make a corresponding move, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So maybe we'll find out tomorrow that somebody's going from Double-A to Triple-A, or maybe somebody's moving to the bullpen. I don't know.
And by the way, he's 2nd in the minor leagues in strikeouts, by the way. So he's got 93 innings, 119 strikeouts. He's 2nd only to Reese Olson.
In the Tigers system.
Yeah, the Tigers. Excuse me. Pardon me. Among the Tigers, and So, by the way, if you want interested in the top 5, Olsen number 1, Hurdler number 2, Flores number 3 at 109 and 85 innings pitched, Austin Bergner 105 and 102 innings pitched, and Garrett Burhan at 105 and 82 innings pitched. And by the way, Madden's kind of been just hit over 100. He's at 104 over 103 innings pitched. So, but yeah, it's good to see. It's really good to see that kind of progress for a guy like him, and to move up again. He's one of the few guys who's moved up 3 levels so far this season among pitchers. I mean, it's usually starting from Lakeland, I should say. So, but yeah, I again cannot complain about that whatsoever. Carlos, you're talking about Carlos Guzman real quick, Chris, before we get out of here and we go to Lakeland. Guzman, I feel like sometimes, like when we as soon as we write off Guzman, he comes back and goes, "Yeah, I'm still here, guys. I'm still pumping 97, 98."
There's stuff there to like. There's a lot of stuff there to like. He's super athletic. It's a good delivery. He hits the mid to upper 90s, like you said. But the breaking ball isn't consistent, and the changeup that used to be very good is just kind of, I don't know, we didn't see it much the last time we saw him. We've been begging for them to move him to the bullpen. Maybe it'll happen now. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, when he goes out there and gives you 5 scoreless, you go, maybe we shouldn't move him to the bullpen. So he and Montero are 2 interesting pitchers that to keep an eye on. Don't forget about them. They'll probably continue to move up through the system, and we'll see what happens. But we didn't even talk about the big news, right? The big news is Jackson Jobe got called up to IA.
Oh yeah.
So he's gonna debut on Wednesday, I believe, right? We're gonna go out and see him. And I'm hoping for 3 innings. I'm trying to keep my expectations low, just because he's had some struggles this year, and we talked about guys moving up a level. But I'm excited to see him in person for the first time for sure.
I'll just say this, Chris. I think we should get there early enough to where if I stand up and go get pictures, which I will, that he doesn't leave my site, and that you're taking notes or whomever we're going to take out there. So I remember that happened when I went to go get pictures of Flores. I'm like, he's gone already. What the hell, man? So I'm going to camp out and have everything set, ready to go for Jackson Jobe's debut in West Michigan. This will be the first time I see him. The day he was supposed to start in Lakeland, he got rained out when I was down.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm stoked for that. And speaking of Lakeland, let's go to the bats in Lakeland. And Justice Bigby had a good week. He went 7 for 23, batted 304, but not as good as a week as Roberto Campos, 7 for 19 for 368, 480, 474, and an OPS of 954. He's also walking better. He had 3 stolen bases too, the boot too. And so I don't know, Chris. I mean, we talked about. I mean, Manuel Sequeira leads the Florida State League in home runs, blah blah blah. He's batting he batted 167 this week, but I want to say quietly, because I don't think we talk about Campos as much because we don't have a lot of video of him. But I think quietly he's having a really good season, and I think that it's worth mentioning because I know that Santana and Sequeira get on the headlines, but I don't know, man. Campos has been the most steady one so far to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's. I think steady is a good word for it, right? Like he hasn't really had any stretch where he's been like out of his mind great, and he hasn't really scuffled all that much. He's making kind of slow and steady progress. And he kind of reminds me of that Oscar Gonzalez kid for Cleveland.
Yeah.
I don't know if you just a big, strong, athletic, more athletic than you'd picture him. And I think Gonzalez is pretty aggressive, but doesn't strike out a ton. He doesn't walk a ton. I don't know. I think we've seen a lot of promising things from Campos. I think he's probably going to go to West Michigan next year, and that'll be really fun to go out and be able to see him. He's only 19, so it would be a great sign there. And yeah, anytime you see a guy like that walking, hitting for extra base power, and stealing bases, and he's been playing center field. We don't think he's going to stick to center field, but he's a big athletic kid, and he is an exciting prospect in the system. You just kind of, like I said, you're waiting for him to have that kind of explosion where he goes nuts. And whereas Sequeira is really more of a all or nothing player. We saw this week he had a home run that went 430 feet. Like he's got a ton of power. He also had a game where he walked 3 times, which was 20% of his total walks all year. And that's the main thing holding him back, is he just doesn't walk nearly enough And at higher levels, pitchers are going to take advantage of that because he doesn't strike out a ton either, which tells you that, yeah, he makes a lot of contact and probably a lot of that contact is bad. And so pitchers are just going to keep exploiting that. And then he's going to, that's the Dawel Lugo profile, right? He can put his bat on anything, so he does. And instead of hitting the ball hard, he hits the ball 45 miles an hour to the third baseman. So now with Sekera's young enough that you hope he can improve, and because he's also a teenager, and he's doing things that Tigers teenagers haven't done. He's going to hit 20 home runs. He's going to end up with 30 doubles. The last teenager to hit 30 doubles in A ball for the Tigers was Castellanos. So he's got some talent. It's just a matter of refining it, and you hope that he can figure it out.
Yeah, because there is a crop of exciting players at Lakeland. You look at even a guy like, for example, Peyton Graham's been struggling a little bit, but still, Evan Leonardo, who had a good week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say he's in one of the young crop of exciting players, but I mean, this is a guy, by the way, who has been he's been in rookie ball. And so last year his debut in Lakeland. He's already kind of holding his own a little bit. So that's good to see and that's in terms of international guys. I mean, that's really good to see because usually it's 1 or 2. Now we have 3 to 4. Again, it sounds like I'm being trivial about the whole thing, but
yeah. And that would be, we talked about it before. We kind of like a Kerry Carpenter represents that sort of golden, like, hey, just a kid out of nowhere just keeps producing, and you have to keep promoting him. And what do you know, he's in the big leagues. Like, we're waiting for that from an international kid, right? We've Campos and Santana were kind of big name signings, and for a certain extent, Sekera was too. Like, we keep hyping up Raylan Perez down in the DSL, but we don't know if that really means anything. But it would be fun. Someone like Iverson Leonardo just kept hitting, and they had to keep promoting him. And what do you know? He becomes some sort of player because it's been a long time since that happened.
Yeah, I mean, but the Benitez.
There's Arno Benitez is another one. Yeah,
there's another one who came up to West Michigan, and that's a sign of progress because they had to make room for other guys. But still, outside of that, I mean, Steph Stevenson, by the way, made his debut for Lakeland this week.
Yeah, right-handed Robson.
Yeah, right.
Righty Robson. He was supposed to be a switch hitter, but I think he's just right-handed. Yeah, but he very much reminds me of Jake Robson. I think he stole 7 bases this week. He's just that dude. He's going to get on base. He's going to steal.
You know what, Michael? I like that comp.
What?
Edward Encarnacion. I could see that.
I think Encarnacion was a better athlete.
It was
he would steal 20 bases and stuff. Yeah.
It was labeled the 5-tool guy. I remember every headline, 5-tool.
But that is, I do think that's apt in terms of like the plate discipline and the lack of discipline, as it were. And Santana is a guy but he didn't do a whole lot this week, just 3 for 12 with a double and 4 walks. But he's a guy I'm curious to see if they move him up next year, if he starts the year in Lakeland, because he's so young that you can get away with that. And I think you just want to see him hit more. He's been an above average offensive player for most of the year, but most of that is due to walks. He's really patient. And I think they probably want to see, it's like the opposite of Sekera, right? You want Santana to be a little bit more aggressive, and you want Sekera to have some of that patience. So, but we'll see. They still have a whole offseason, and maybe those guys will take big leaps forward. But it's exciting. And you mentioned they've got a handful of the new draft picks. You said Stevenson. Peyton Graham didn't do a whole ton of stuff, but he did. I think he had a double and stole some bases. Luke Gold was there. Danny Soretti came back from a minor injury. So, I don't know. They've got a lot of infielders now. Got to work those guys out the next year.
And going into the pitching real quick, one of the things I wanted to mention was, and this is a guy we've talked about before, is in Marco Jimenez, who had a pretty good week. 3 innings, 2 hits, 6 strikeouts. Cam Brown, the Central Michigan grad, also had a good week. 5 innings, 5 hits, 7 strikeouts. I think he had 3 scoreless innings the other day under the bullpen. Yeah,
it was the Lakeland. Lakeland was kind of the opposite of Erie this week, where they just couldn't get any kind of length from their starters. Chris Anglin went like an inning and a third, gave up 5 runs. He's throwing 87 miles an hour. That's your Robbie Grossman return. Jackson Jobe only went an inning and 2/3 because of the 32 pitches or whatever. So, yeah, they just needed their bullpen to come through, and their bullpen did. Like Cam Brown, I think 5 scoreless. Jimenez is just a fascinating arm to me. We've talked about it before. Yeah. He's up to 99, throws the hell out of the ball, and his ERA is over 9. I think it's just one of those minor league guys. Who else? There was a couple other Christian Tortosa, who's you saw down in Lakeland and was impressive because he's been tantalizing for years as a lefty who, hey, this looks good, and then he'll have 3 outings that look bad. Like where did it go? But he was good this week. Who else? Tyler Madison, and I want to point out Tyler Madison, the 4th rounder last year, 3 games this week, 4 2/3, 2 earned runs. I wanted to mention his outing today because it apparently was just a big FU outing based on what I'm looking at Baseball Savant. So he threw 37 pitches, 34 of them were 4-seam fastballs. 34 out of 37, got 9 swings and misses with it. It averaged 95.9 and touched 97.5 with huge spin. I think he was just like, you know what, forget pitching. I'm just going to throw it right by you. And he did. So good for him.
Yeah, you mentioned Jordan Marks too, by the way, was also made start 4 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, and struck out 5. But Marks is still in that weird territory where,
I don't want to write him off because he was a guy who was really interested. He's a native of Sarnia.
Yeah.
And he was a guy that pitched really well in college last year and was supposedly up to close to 99 or whatever in an outing. But you saw him this year and it was like, how did this work? He was like 88 to 91 with a pure reliever's delivery. I was like, how is he? But he was throwing enough strikes. He just was getting hit hard. So I don't know if his stuff is backed up or what. But, hope for him going forward. But he kind of put himself behind the 8 ball this year with some poor performances. And then I think he got injured. So he's definitely down the pecking order now, behind Burhan, behind Herter, behind Smith, behind Madden, behind Job, all those guys. So he's got work to do.
So a guy who had a good week, and his numbers are interesting, and that would be one Blake Holub, who was drafted in the 15th round last year. His numbers are. I know that like when you look at his numbers, just looking at the box score doesn't look well, but honestly, he got off to a rough start. But the last since July 13th. He's pitched pretty well. I mean, so far this month in 7 innings of work, he's at an ERA 1.23. He's got 12 strikeouts in 7 innings of work. His strikeouts have always been good. It's just he's had a hard time with walks, and he still does. I mean, he has 4 walks in 7 innings of work. Last month, 6 innings of work, 4 walks, but he's limited to damage run-wise. And so, I don't know, Chris, in terms of, I like to see him before I say anything else, but again, the numbers look better.
No, he is one of the dudes that I watched. Remember, I was putting together, I had like 2 hours of video on pitchers from Lakeland when they were facing Bradenton. All the other guys, I wanted to get videos of all the rest of them just so we had them.
Yeah.
And then we had to go out and watch some guys. And I'm like, I got to clear out space. So they're like all in my Google Cloud right now. I have to pull them back down and go through them. Yeah. But yeah, Holub is interesting because he was a 2-way player in college, and he looks like a 2-way player when he's pitching. He looks like an outfielder throwing. But it's like 95, 97 with cut.
Yeah.
And he's got a breaking ball, little flash kind of fringe average. It's like, well, yeah, this might work out of the bullpen, but yeah, he doesn't seem to have any idea where the ball's going most of the time. But he's a good arm that they can work with for sure.
Yeah, he's 6'6", 230. He's got some size to him, so that definitely is a advantage to him. So he's got enough time. I mean, he's 23, so but still, it's something that I saw his numbers in the last few weeks. I'm like, oh well, looks like he's figured out something. But
and just for fun, remember I said I'm always going to confuse Jake Miller and Joe Miller.
Yeah,
the 2 draft picks from this year. They both made their debuts this week. How about this? They both pitched 3 innings. They both gave up 3 hits. They both gave up 2 earned runs. They both gave up a home run, and they both struck out 4. The only difference is Jake walked 1 guy and Joe walked nobody. So I'm just going to confuse them forever. They're just going to pitch identical forever, and I'm going to confuse them forever. So there you go.
And they're both Jays. So it's
no, exactly. Jake and Joe Miller. Come on.
Yeah. Sounds like a double dragon. Like the 2, it's just, the 2 guys are the Billy. Is it the Billy brothers? I don't know. I'm making obscure references again. All right. So, Chris, catch us up on Complex in the Dominican Summer League.
Yeah, so I mean, I wrote down the records. Otherwise, it's no big deal. If the Florida Complex Tigers are 18-35, they're 19 games back. We don't need to worry about that. The DSL Tigers won 22-36. Probably don't need to worry there. The DSL Tigers 2, 30-24. They're only 6 games back, so they're interesting. But mostly, we saw a bunch more professional debuts. Dominic Johnson, I think their 13th rounder from Kansas State, played a couple games. Tyler Johnson, their unsigned or undrafted free agent from Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina.
Patrick Pridgeon pitched. I think Quinn Goditis pitched. The guy that I'm just secretly throwing against the wall and saying that I think he might be something, Albert Oliva. He pitched twice. And I picked him, of course, because he's from like the New Mexico area. So I'm just assuming that was a Joey Lothrop signing. And he's had a good track record. And it was reminded me of Wilmer Flores last year. Wilmer Flores got blown up in his first outing in the Complex League and then was very good after that for the rest of the year. Oliva got blown up at his first start, and then his second start, it was 2 innings, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts. So he's a guy I'm interested to follow going forward. But yeah, just lots of professional debuts down there. And Andrew Jenkins, the 9th rounder, keeps hitting pretty well.
Jenkins.
Yeah. So I don't know. You try not to pay too much attention. We mentioned Raylan Perez. I'm just going to keep mentioning Raylan Perez until he comes up and proves that he's not actually a prospect. But I still never did confirm my suspicion about who he might be related to. But we'll see. We'll wait. We'll wait on that. I can confirm or deny.
Oh wait, so Raylan. So if you want to know what Raylan Perez is up to right now, he got some sort of award. By the way, I was just checking his Instagram story. So yeah, if you want me to share that, I can share that.
Yeah, I mean he's kind enough to occasionally post videos of him doing things. There were a couple of home runs that he posted, and there was a defensive play. So that's nice.
Yeah, let's see here. Let me right here.
Riley Green.
Yeah, he won something. Let's see here.
Nice.
Yeah,
I mean, he's doing what you hope.
I feel my age when I'm like, oh, man, we're going to Instagram looking for prospect videos, but Instagram is becoming a source for all this. And so this is, if anybody has not watched him, this is him right here. So if you're interested in what Raylan Perez looks like here, wow.
Yeah. He's got 7 home runs this year. I think 7, 8, 9 steals, a 20% walk rate, 29% strikeout rate, which is a little bit worrisome, but hitting over 300, lots of extra base hits, playing shortstop. Not, all those shortstops make a lot of errors. I think he's got 11 or 12, but
look at the Phillies got their number or their names on the back. Just it looks like the jerseys you get in Little League, in that rec league that you play in. So anyway, if you ever search around Instagram, I feel weird because as a grown man, I'm like, do I feel weird getting these videos?
He can hide it if he wants to. He's a professional athlete at this point. He's
True.
You don't know if he's quite 18, but whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our Raylan Perez update of the week.
Yeah, I mean, they have a couple interesting, some of their interesting signings. Josue Braceno is like a 6'4" catcher. He's power. Samuel Gill or Heel, Gil is pronounced or is spelled. He's performed pretty well. He was kind of their secondary. He was supposed to be like their second big signing this year. And unfortunately, the big signing, Javier Osorio, is having one of the worst debut seasons for any Tigers international player that I can remember. Since John Sandoval, or not, is it John Sandoval? I think it was John Sandoval.
Yeah, John Sandoval, yeah.
Who, I mean, it's like a 35, 36% strikeout rate. He's not really walking. He's not hitting for any power. I think he's hitting like 190. He's going to be a 2-year DSL guy, if not more, which is not what you want to see out of the guy that they presumably gave like $2.5 million to. But, that's the way it goes. It's tough to scout these kids. You're signing them, or you're basically agreeing to deals when they're 14. And you just hope that they're good or better 2 to 3 years later. And maybe he's just one who didn't work out.
By the way, for those who are scoring at home, Josh Lester and Niporti are now tied for the Tigers minor league league in RBIs 78. So those are scoring at home. Lester is 4 away from Niporti, who leads with 28 home runs currently, because Carpenter's been gone for a few weeks, and he still leads the Tiger minor league system 30.
Also, Niporti hit a home run this week that did not count. They just ruled it a foul ball, even though it was 10 feet fair.
Why?
The umps just didn't see it. They're like, yeah, that's foul. And they were able to, the Tigers have all their equipment there, and they can tell. And it was 10 feet fair. But there you go. So he should have 29 home runs. And I don't know if it was a 2-run homer or what, but he followed it up with a hit, but it wasn't a home run.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that sucks. It's unfortunate. But again, he probably hit his 29th probably by Tuesday or Wednesday. So we'll be out at West Michigan on Wednesday. We'll probably hit up Erie again before the season ends. And season ends in a couple weeks. for AA. And I was thinking about him about Toledo this week too, because Toledo is home against Louisville. The Tigers play the Giants Tuesday and Wednesday, but I'm probably going to go, like I said, Jackson Jobe debut. I'm not going to miss that. So it's a more interesting story right now, quite frankly, until I get clubhouse access. But at this point, I would like to see Jackson Jobe's full start. And then, maybe Toledo, hopefully this week. But like I said, I want to make it out to Erie.
Yeah, we got to get out. I'm hoping, if not for any potential playoff series, then maybe want to go out for their series with Bowie, because that's basically a playoff series, right?
Yeah, I would mind going to see that too. And then, there's plenty of baseball left. And like I said, I think just realizing today there's going to be plenty of content available on both sides, both minor leagues and the Tigers with this offseason. When Henning says stuff like that, you have to listen. I mean, I know people don't like Henning sometimes, but usually what he says comes to fruition. So I think there's whatever direction they're going to go. I think there's going to be more headlines to come. So thanks so much for listening to this hybrid Woodward minor league recap thing. It's going to be posted on the Woodward feed. And thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. And we'll be back on Thursday with the full crew with Uper as well.
No,
and
we moved it to Wednesday, but it's been on Thursday like 4 times, because if the Tigers would stop having interesting pitchers go on Wednesdays, or and then you went on vacation, and then I couldn't make it on Thursday. So but it's eventually going to be back on Wednesdays, I think.
Yeah, it'll be back on Wednesdays at some point. But the Tigers keep changing things around, and going on vacation did not help. Threw that into kind of a monkey wrench and everything. But Jackson Jobe's pitching on Wednesday, so I think it's safe to say, would you rather us go see Jackson Jobe and post videos, or do a podcast? And I think everybody in this room would probably say, go West, young man. And don't forget, before check out our Patreon, and we also have a PayPal too. It's been in the show notes, so if you want to donate just one time to the show, those appreciate it. Same thing, we had a new Patreon. Thank you. It's getting there. So if you want to contribute a couple bucks to help us out with gas and travel or everything, goes up back on the website. The more we can do little things like extra videos, those kind of things. Fantastic. So thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good week, everybody.